I was kicked out of my house on Christmas Eve by my own mother. She handed me a garbage bag with my things in it. Not even a suitcase, a garbage bag, like I was trash. My little brother, Caleb, stood behind her, smirking like he'd finally won something. My mother didn't say a word, just turned and shut the door. No explanation, no goodbye, nothing. That night, I slept in my car outside the grocery store. The same grocery store where I used to pick up her prescriptions. The same one where I once ran in the rain to get Caleb his favorite ice cream before his birthday party. I remember staring at the foggy windshield, shaking so hard my teeth hurt not from the cold, but from the rage I was trying to swallow. Let me back up. My father died when I was 24. Heart attack. Sudden. Traumatic. He was the only one who saw me. The only one who knew what I actually did for the family. After he died, Mom changed. Or maybe she was always like that and just stopped pretending. I moved back home because she said she needed help. Caleb was 16, useless. But he was the man of the house now, according to her. I did everything. I paid bills. I cooked. I cleaned. I helped Caleb with college applications, stayed up nights rewriting his essays. I even prepped him for the interview that got him his scholarship. My name wasn't on anything, of course. Not the deed, not the company, not the insurance, just the to-do lists, the checkbook, the silence. Caleb had always been the golden boy. Tall, charming, the kind of kid who could forget your birthday and still get a bigger gift than you. I was the emotional sponge, the one who could be relied on, the one who doesn't need as much. 8 months after Dad died, Mom pulled me aside and said, Caleb was going to take over Dad's business. I was relieved. I didn't want it. But then she asked me to coach him a bit. Just until he gets the hang of it. You know this stuff better than anyone. So I did. I wrote his speeches. I sat in on investor meetings, quietly taking notes while Caleb parroted my points. I coached him through budgets and balance sheets like a damn MBA tutor. He got accolades, promotions, magazine write-ups. I got asked to pick up dry cleaning. Still, I told myself it was family. I told myself I was helping, that someday they'd see what I did. The real betrayal came in a sleek envelope, and an official letter from the company. Effective immediately, I was being let go. Redundancy, they said. Caleb didn't even have the decency to tell me in person. I confronted him, and he actually looked annoyed. You knew this wasn't permanent, he said, shrugging like I'd just spilled his coffee. Mom and I talked, and we think it's time you figure out your own thing. My own thing. Like I hadn't just spent 2 years holding the entire household and him together. I found out later that the company had just finalized a huge deal, one that I brokered. My strategies, my pitch deck, my hours of groundwork. Caleb closed it, and once the wire hit, I was out. Just like that. Christmas Eve, Mom told me I was causing tension, that I was jealous of Caleb and that it was time for me to grow up. And then she handed me that garbage bag. I sat in my freezing car, watching the streetlights flicker, and something snapped. Not in a loud, dramatic way. Quiet, icy, like a deep lake that suddenly ices over. I had kept receipts, all of them. That night, I opened my laptop at the 24-hour diner, sipped burned coffee, logged into accounts they forgot I had access to. Because while Caleb played CEO, I had managed the back end. I knew the passwords. I knew the tax loopholes. I knew which contracts were in my name, not his. They thought they played me. They had no idea the game had just started. The morning after Christmas, I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I didn't even text them. I just went quiet. I moved into a sublet in a neighborhood where the sidewalks cracked and the heater clanged like a haunted bell tower. The landlord was sketchy. The walls were thin, but it was mine. I didn't decorate. I didn't unpack half my things. I slept with my laptop on the floor next to my mattress like a soldier with a weapon, and I watched. Caleb thought I was gone. Good, that's what I wanted. He kept forwarding emails to my old address, the one tied to his assistant. Me, the calendar invites, the bank statements, the lease renewals. I guess no one had told him I was redundant yet, or maybe he just assumed I'd keep doing the work from exile like the good little ghost sister. Classic. The guy couldn't read a term sheet without me translating it into cartoons. I ghosted everyone. No Facebook updates, no Instagram stories. I stopped returning calls from the few relatives who were so sorry to hear but still needed Caleb's help getting a loan. I needed them to wonder where I went, to notice the silence. Because people like that only notice you when you're either useful or missing. Mom tried calling once, left a voicemail that started with a sigh and ended with, "We're all under a lot of pressure right now. You need to stop making everything about yourself." Click. I didn't even listen to the rest. I didn't need to. I knew the script. For the first time in my life, I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I didn't defend myself or try to win her over. I just stopped. And let me tell you, nothing pisses off a narcissist like losing their mirror. By late January, the tone started to shift. The company was having technical issues. I knew because I was the one who set up the system they were now locked out of. Password resets bounced. Internal accounts froze. Vendors started complaining. Contracts started slipping. I knew exactly where the bodies were buried. I was the one who dug the holes. But I wasn't done yet. Because while I was ignored, I'd also been documenting every shady invoice, every account in my name, every under-the-table agreement that Mom and Caleb had brushed aside because you're family, you understand. Oh, I understood. I understood that Caleb's little empire was built on the bones of my labor. I filed a quiet request with the state tax board. Then I contacted a lawyer, not just any lawyer. Julia was a friend of Dad's, a real shark. She used to come over for Sunday dinners back when we had those. When I told her what happened, she didn't blink. "You have documentation? Everything. Then let's bleed them dry." She helped me draft letters, sent copies to the board of directors. We didn't accuse. Not yet. We just asked questions. Very pointed questions. About asset ownership. About signatures. About who held legal claim to the trademarks, the back-end systems, the IP spoiler. It wasn't Caleb. You see, Dad never updated the paperwork after he died. Mom assumed she could sweep that under the rug, hand it off to Caleb, and I'd play secretary forever. But I was the one Dad had assigned as co-executor. I had the documents, I had the audit trail, and I was done playing dumb. By February, the panic started showing. I got a call from an unknown number. It was Caleb. "I just think we should talk," he said. He sounded tired, edges fraying. "There's been confusion." "Oh," I said sweetly. "You mean the confusion where I don't exist until you need help?" He stammered. "Tried to guilt trip me," said Mom was really stressed. "That they never meant for it to get this far." I didn't respond. I just hung up. They started scrambling, trying to fix things they didn't understand. The CRM system I built went down. The server host I paid for expired. Their merchant account flagged suspicious activity because the account holder, me, had locked it from the inside. Oops. But here's the thing. I didn't sabotage them. I just stopped saving them. And without me, they drowned. I watched from the sidelines as the illusion cracked. Investors started asking questions. Clients walked. Employees, most of whom I'd trained, started quitting. Mom started calling again, this time with sugar in her voice, talking about forgiveness and healing. Then she sent the group text, the one that nearly made me laugh out loud. "We are still a family. Whatever happens, we love you. Please come home so we can talk." Love? Love isn't asking someone to erase themselves for your convenience. Love isn't treating someone like an unpaid servant, then acting shocked when they stop showing up. I didn't reply. I took my silence and wrapped it around me like armor, and I waited, because the truth was still coming. The receipts were still printing, and the game wasn't over. They had taken everything from me, but they forgot I built it all, and I never forgot where I put the fuse. I got the call on a Tuesday morning while sitting on a park bench with a lukewarm coffee and a croissant that tasted like cardboard. "Miss Harper," said a tight nasal voice. "This is Jasmine Lynn from Grayson and Bell. We represent the investors of Claymore Strategies, and we'd like to ask a few questions about your involvement with the company's founding structure." I didn't say anything for a few seconds. Then, of course, "What would you like to know?" That call lasted 2 hours. By the time we hung up, I knew the clock was ticking on Caleb's little house of cards. Let me explain something. My father had always been old school, meticulous with paperwork, but terrible with digital systems. So when I came back home after his death, it was me who set up everything online. The cloud storage, the accounting software, the CRM, the contract templates, the registration portals. everything. And when Mom shoved Caleb into the spotlight, they never bothered to check whose name was on what. Turns out, a lot of it was mine. Not because I claimed it, but because nobody else did. For example, the software license Caleb used to run client contracts, registered to me, the back-end payment processor that kept the money flowing, my ID, my EIN, the company website domain. Guess who paid for and registered that? And the trademark? The actual name Claymore Strategies? Yeah, that was my signature on the application. And I still had the original PDF confirmation. The best part? I never even tried to hide it. I just stopped reminding them. The next few weeks were surreal. I got anonymous messages from old coworkers. What's going on over there? Is it true Caleb's being investigated? He's saying you sabotaged everything. I ignored them. Then one day, Julia forwarded me a memo, an internal leak from the board. Apparently, after my chat with Jasmine, the investor started an audit. Not the gentle kind, though we're about to sue everyone kind. Turns out, Caleb had been misreporting numbers. And by misreporting, I mean flat out lying. While I'd been managing accounts responsibly, he'd started rerouting funds to hire consultants who never showed up, threw money at PR firms to get fluff articles about himself in tech blogs, and worst of all, transferred personal expenses through the company card. Vacations, dinners, even a lease on a Tesla. And remember that deal I told you about? The big one I set up? They lost it. Turns out when the client tried to renegotiate, Caleb panicked. Instead of bringing me in like he used to, he tried to fake his way through it. Got combative, arrogant. And then the client walked, quietly. Didn't say a word to the team, just stopped replying. $2. $6 million. Gone. I found out through Jasmine. She asked if I'd be willing to submit written testimony. Oh, honey, I didn't submit testimony. I submitted a timeline. I sent screenshots, email threads, meeting notes, password logs, payment receipts, internal chats where Caleb messaged me things like, I don't get this. Can you fix it before the meeting? And I sent one more thing, a scanned copy of Dad's last will and testament, the one naming me as co-executor of the estate, the one that Caleb and Mom apparently misplaced when they filed with the court. That was the final domino. Turns out, the estate still legally held 48% of Claymore Strategies, and I was the sole acting executor of that half. Caleb didn't own the company. He borrowed it. And I was calling the loan. I could have sued. I could have filed injunctions, frozen the assets, dragged it all through court. But I didn't. I let them flail. I watched from the shadows as they tried to get ahead of it. Public apologies, damage control, a YouTube video where Caleb sat in front of a bookcase and said he was deeply sorry for any confusion. Comments disabled, of course. But it was too late. The board ousted him. Mom's position as advisor was eliminated. Caleb tried to claim it was all a setup, that I was out to destroy him because I was jealous. And that's when the real kicker landed. A journalist, one I'd quietly reached out to months earlier, dropped a story titled, Sister Act, the woman behind Claymore's rise and fall. The piece was brutal. It outlined how I'd built the systems, managed the deals, carried the operations. It quoted emails, sourced anonymous employees, even had a section called The Ghost Architect. It went viral. Suddenly, I wasn't invisible anymore. People started tagging me. My LinkedIn exploded. Recruiters, startups, investors who wanted to talk. I got invited to podcasts. A woman in tech wrote, "She's the reason half these dudes make it look easy." I didn't respond to most. Just one post. Thanks for finally noticing. I was always here. Meanwhile, Mom called again. Voicemails this time? Longer, weepy. You know your brother's going through a hard time. I wish you'd come talk to me. You're tearing this family apart. I saved them all. Didn't respond. Not yet. Because there was still one piece left. The house. The one I grew up in. The one they kicked me out of. Funny thing about real estate, turns out, the deed hadn't been updated properly after Dad died either. Guess whose name was still co-listed? I walked into the county office with a folder full of documents, spoke calmly to the clerk, filed a petition. It went through in 2 weeks. I was now 50% legal owner of the house. I had every right to access the property. But I didn't want to live there. I just wanted them to know I could. So I sent them a letter, formal, legally reviewed. Effective immediately, the house would be put up for sale. They had 30 days to vacate. No drama, no threats, just paperwork. It landed in their mailbox on a Friday. And for once, I didn't imagine their reaction. I didn't care. I was done imagining anything for them. Let them picture me now. I was the ghost they buried in a garbage bag. And now, I was writing their ending. The day the house went up for sale, Caleb showed up at my door, unannounced. No call, no text, just his stupid Tesla parked halfway over the curb and him standing there in that overpriced hoodie like he was some sad, misunderstood startup founder. I didn't open the door right away. I stood in the kitchen and watched him through the peephole while my tea steeped. I could see the panic in his posture, shoulders too high, hands fidgeting with his phone like he was hoping to magically conjure up a reason for being here. When I finally opened the door, I didn't smile. I didn't say anything. He did. "You don't have to do this," he blurted. Not even waiting for a greeting. I tilted my head. "Do what?" "This. Selling the house. Mom's a wreck. She's not eating. She barely sleeps." I let the silence sit between us like a brick wall. When I finally spoke, I kept my voice even. "You threw me out on Christmas Eve." "With a garbage bag." He blinked. We didn't mean for it to go like that." "No," I said. "You meant for me to go, period." He had the audacity to look hurt. "I didn't think you'd retaliate." "Retaliate?" I almost laughed. "You mean defend myself? Take back what was mine?" He shifted, eyes darting. "You've made your point, okay? You're not invisible. Everyone knows now. You got your credit, your attention. This was never about attention," I snapped, and something in my voice made him finally shut up. "You took what I built. You used me. And when I stopped being useful, you tossed me like a bad receipt. And now, you're scared because you realized I never needed you. But you," I jabbed a finger toward his chest, "you can't function without someone holding the scaffolding for your fake empire." Caleb looked like he might cry, but I didn't care. That part of me, the part that used to ache for his approval, for Mom's, was dead. "I'm not here to be begged," I said flatly. "You have 24 days left. Use them." I closed the door. That weekend, I showed up to our house with a realtor. I didn't knock. I used my key. Mom was sitting in the living room like a ghost in one of her old robes, makeup half done like she'd gotten distracted mid-mirror and never came back. She didn't look at me, just stared at the TV, which wasn't even turned on. The realtor, bless her, was professional but brisk. Took measurements. Took notes. I walked the halls like a visitor at a museum of old wounds. My old bedroom still had the same faded wallpaper, but my books were gone, probably donated or burned. I stopped in Dad's office. His old leather chair was gone, replaced by a cheap gaming one with red streaks. Caleb's junk was piled on the desk. Headphones, wires, old receipts, a stained mug that said CEO Fuel. I smiled coldly. How poetic. When we left, Mom finally spoke. "You'll regret this." I paused in the doorway. "No. You'll regret that you taught me love meant sacrifice, and that I was only valuable when I had nothing left." She flinched. I learned better. Then I left her in the silence she used to weaponize against me. The fallout came fast and loud. The house sold in 3 weeks. Cash buyer. Below market, but I didn't care. I didn't want their profit. I wanted closure. Caleb and Mom moved into some condo outside the city. I saw it listed in a background check Julia ran for legal loose ends. It was small. Forgettable. Just enough for people used to living off other people's effort. Meanwhile, the company? Gutted. After the audit, Caleb was forced to resign. The board posted a sterile update. After a comprehensive review, Claymore Strategies will undergo restructuring. Translation, we cleaned house. Investors pulled out. Clients went silent. Employees scattered like ants after a boot. And me? I didn't say a word publicly. I didn't post anything online. I let them bury themselves. But then something unexpected happened. I got a call from one of the original investors. A woman named Dana, sharp as a tack, early 40s, used to work at McKinsey before she decided to put her money into small startups. She'd read the article, saw the receipts, and she wanted to meet. "I think you've got more in you than revenge," she said. We met at a quiet cafe downtown. She didn't patronize me, didn't ask me to rehash the trauma. She just slid a folder across the table. Inside, a term sheet, seed capital, backing for a new company, mine. I spent the next 6 months rebuilding. Not for them. For me, I hired smart, loyal people, mostly women who'd been talked over, burned out, pushed aside. We worked out of a co-op space at first. Late nights, laughter, real collaboration, no ego, no fragile man-boy drama. We launched our first product in 8 months. A business tool that streamlined B2B onboarding and CRM integration, the kind of thing I used to quietly build behind Caleb's back. This time, my name was on every line. People noticed. Tech magazines that had once written puff pieces about my brother now called asking for interviews with me. I declined most. Except one. A podcast run by a female founder who'd been burned in her own way. We talked. We laughed. We cried. Near the end, she asked, "Do you think they'll ever apologize?" I didn't even hesitate. No. And I don't need them to. That episode went viral. I got messages from women across the country. "You told my story. I thought I was crazy for how my family treated me. Thank you for showing there's life on the other side of being discarded." It wasn't revenge anymore. It was liberation. One day, nearly a year after the house sold, I got a letter. Handwritten. Sloppy cursive. From Mom. She said she missed me. That family should stick together. That Caleb was having a hard time finding work. That maybe I could help. I didn't respond. Instead, I wrote one line on a Post-it, sealed it in an envelope, and mailed it back. "You taught me to disappear." I just finally listened. No threats, no cruelty, just truth and silence. The kind they couldn't control this time. The kind that meant freedom. A year after everything burned down, I woke up to quiet. The good kind. The kind that isn't empty, it's full of stillness. I made coffee in my own kitchen, the one with warm lighting and cabinets I picked out myself. The walls were painted a soft green, the color of calm. There were no ghosts here, no cold silences, no footsteps waiting to pounce the second you let your guard down. Just me, breathing. I didn't recognize this version of my life at first. Not because it was foreign, but because it wasn't about survival. It was about choosing where to go, what to build, who to trust. My company, my real company, was thriving. We hit our first major revenue milestone that spring. Our user base grew. Our retention rate was through the roof. But what mattered more than the numbers were the people. One of my lead developers was a single mom who once told me in an interview, "I left my last job because my boss said I should smile more." She runs her own team now. My operations manager, a woman who had been laid off during maternity leave and ghosted by her previous company. Now, she basically runs the whole show, and I make sure every damn day she knows it. There's laughter in our office. Real, belly deep kind. We work hard, sure, but no one cries in bathrooms. No one hides breakdowns under productivity. I told them from day one, if you're struggling, say so. We'll figure it out. Because no one ever said that to me. And I remember what it felt like to always be the strong one, the one who doesn't cry, the one who picks up the broken pieces, even when she's the one bleeding. I remember. I will never be that person again. I still get the occasional reminder. Last month, I saw Caleb at a conference. He was sitting at a back table, slouched in a way that made him look smaller than I remembered. His badge didn't say CEO anymore, just consultant. No company name, no team. He saw me. I saw the flicker, recognition, then hesitation, then shame. I nodded politely and kept walking. That was all. I didn't gloat. I didn't smirk. I didn't stop to ask how Mom was doing or if he was still living in that sad condo near the highway, because I didn't need anything from him, and that's what real power feels like. It's not revenge. It's not making them hurt the way they hurt you. It's waking up one day and realizing their grip on your life is just gone. Their story ends where yours begins. I do think about my father sometimes. Not in the grief-stricken way I used to, clutching old photos, trying to hear his voice in my head like a prayer. Now, I think of him with warmth, with clarity. He saw me. He knew. I found one of his journals in a box I took from the house before we sold it. Tucked inside, between meeting notes and grocery lists, was a line written in his messy handwriting. Maya is the only one who actually listens. She's the one who could really run this. He never said that out loud. Maybe he was afraid to. Maybe he didn't know how to say it without lighting a fuse. But he saw it. And now, so do I. He left me tools, knowledge, strength. The rest I built myself. Mom hasn't called in over 8 months now. Last I heard, she moved in with her sister across the state. She's apparently not well, according to a cousin who texted me after seeing my name in a Forbes Women to Watch article. I didn't reply. I don't wish her harm. I just don't wish her anything. For a long time, I thought healing meant reconciliation. That maybe if I worked hard enough, proved myself loud enough, they'd apologize. That we'd sit at a table again. That she'd say, sorry. That Caleb would finally acknowledge what he did. But I was chasing something that never existed. There was no version of our family where I was seen as equal. I was always a mirror, useful only when reflecting what they wanted to see. And when I stopped being that, they smashed me. But here's the thing about mirrors. Even shattered, I still reflect the truth. The biggest lie they told me was that I was hard to love, that I was too intense, too sensitive, too independent. Turns out those were my superpowers. I'm not too much. I was just too much for people who were too little. Now I have friends who check in on me, who bring wine when I've had a rough week and don't expect me to entertain them. I have colleagues who value my voice, who trust my vision. I have a therapist who once said, "You don't owe anyone the ruin of your peace just because they share your DNA." And she's right. Sometimes family is what you're born into. Sometimes it's what you choose. I chose peace. I chose freedom. I chose myself. I got a message last night from a woman I barely know. Someone who used to work with me years ago. Back when I was still ghostwriting Caleb's emails and pretending I didn't mind. She said she'd read the story. She said it gave her courage. Then she wrote this. They said I was heartless. But for once, I put my heart first. Thank you for showing me how. I stared at that line for a long time. Because that's what they used to say about me too. Heartless, cold, ruthless, selfish. But the truth? I'm not heartless. I just finally stopped giving mine to people who treated it like a doormat. And if that makes me cold, good. Because fire taught me how to burn. But ice taught me how to last. Story 2. Eleanor West pulled open the hospital pharmacy's glass door and went outdoors. Her cheeks were brushed by the cool October breeze. She was excited to spend time with her family and relieved to be done with work. But there was a tiny dread buried deep down. Greg would go on a 2-week business trip tonight. Eleanor inhaled deeply after getting inside her automobile. She had worked as a hospital pharmacist for many years and had learned to always remain calm. Sometimes a medication error can be lethal. She took pleasure in her sense of accountability and her inaccuracies. She was now well trusted by her coworkers as the head of the pharmaceutical team. She could see her 2-story home in a peaceful neighborhood in the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania suburbs. After parking, Eleanor looked in the rearview mirror to examine her face. Her hair gleamed a pale chestnut, and her complexion was almost wrinkle-free, but there were signs of exhaustion beneath her eyes. The front door opened, Mom. After a little calculation, Lily's slender arms around Eleanor's waist. Watch out, Lily. How often have I warned you against running into the street? Eleanor took up her daughter and reprimanded her gently. Lily's large blue eyes were full of their typical intellect and curiosity. Her 6-year-old daughter was constantly aware of changes in her environment. At times, she was even able to read Eleanor's emotions before she expressed them. Dad has taken out his baggage. Is he heading out once more? Lily's voice was tinged with disappointment. Yes, Eleanor said, stroking her daughter's silky hair. Dad will have plenty of time for us when he returns from his important work. Even Eleanor was uncertain about the veracity of such statements. Greg West traveled on business vacations a lot while working as a sales manager for a large pharmaceutical firm. Greg has received promotions as a result of his zeal for his work. He had been spending less time at home lately, though, and even when he was there, he appeared aloof. Greg was in the living room loading his final possessions into his luggage when they arrived home. His expression was one of irritation and exhaustion. Hello, welcome back. He looked at his watch and remarked, I'm almost ready. I have to be to the airplane by 7. Oh. Eleanor made an effort to grin, although it seemed a little forced. How about dinner? Before you go, would you like something? No time. I'll go to the airport and get something. Greg closed his suitcase and answered. Lily rushed over to her dad's feet. Take this with you, Dad. It is a charm of good fortune. She extended a little stone. There was affection on the surface. You, Father. It was written in childlike script. Greg's face grew softer. He lowered himself to Lily's eye level and gave her a hug. Princess, thank you. I will cherish it. As Eleanor observed the scene, her chest constricted. Lily thought that although Greg was a caring father to her, their connection had recently become chilly. Greg. Regarding your flight back. Greg's phone rang as Eleanor started. He glanced at the television and his face altered. I must accept this. It comes from the business. Greg walked quickly to another room and started talking quietly. With a curious inclination of her head, Eleanor grasped Lily's hand and made her way to the kitchen. Lily, hurry up. Come on, let's make dinner. I'll prepare lasagna. Dad stated he wouldn't eat it, even though it was his favorite. Lily's head cocked. Indeed, but we'll consume it and store it in the freezer for when Dad gets back. Lily started using crayons to doodle as Eleanor sliced the cheese in the kitchen while she was gathering the materials for lasagna. What about Greg, she wondered. He has been stepping out of the room a lot lately to answer calls. She initially believed it to be about private business affairs. She couldn't help but think about other options now, though. Greg had a cheerful face as he came back. The news wasn't horrible, was it? Eleanor spoke. Well, anything. Greg stammered a little as he said, just standard verification. In any case, I have to leave. I see, Eleanor said softly. Be careful. Tell me if anything occurs. Greg kissed Lily again, nodded, and rushed out as the door shut. The home was silent for a minute. What's wrong with Dad, Mom? Lily gazed up at Eleanor with her bright eyes. He appears to be somewhere else lately. Eleanor looked astonished. Lily was constantly in awe of her ability to observe. You could be correct. Dad has a lot going on. He has a lot of significant work to do. Does your father also adore you? Eleanor was at a loss for words when asked that straightforward inquiry. He does, of course. Dad adores her family. After a long moment of silence, as though contemplating, Lily nodded. I suppose so. Eleanor disconnected Greg's smartphone from the bedroom charger that evening. After putting Lily to bed, in his haste, he had forgotten it. A notice of a new mail appeared on the screen. It came from an unidentified phone number. Eleanor remained still for a time, holding the phone in her hand. As a demonstration of trust, she was aware of the password. She locked the screen and placed it back in her heart, even though they had exchanged passwords. It was only a work-related communication, she reminded herself. She could see stars gleaming in the fall night sky outside the window. After inhaling deeply, Eleanor lay down on the bed. Greg was gone for 3 days when this happened. Eleanor was in the hospital pharmacy, checking medications. The dismal sky and the October rain beating on the windows made the pharmacy's inside illumination appear even more brilliant. She took up the receiver when the phone rang. Eleanor West from pharmacy lecturing. On the other end, there was stillness. Hi there? Eleanor's voice became a little louder. Am I able to assist you? Once more, silence. There was only the sound of feeble breathing. The call eventually ended. Eleanor set the receiver down, looking perplexed. It must have been an incorrect number, she reasoned. But that afternoon, the same thing occurred once more. Her coworker Jeanette inquired worriedly after the third call. Are you okay, Eleanor? You appear pallid. It's a little unsettling. I constantly receiving calls with no one answering. Jeanette chuckled. It may be telemarketers after all. I've heard that they occasionally employ a strategy in which they just wait for a response. Eleanor gritted her teeth. Yes, I could be overanalyzing things. Eleanor went to collect Lily from after-school care after work. Lily started chatting passionately about what had happened at school as soon as they got into the car. As they got closer to their home, Eleanor grinned and listened to her daughter's tales. She slowed down abruptly. Her residence was slowly being passed by an unknown black vehicle. A female figure appeared momentarily through the glass, but she was unable to see the driver. Instinctively, Eleanor applied the brakes. The sedan rounded a bend and was out of sight. Mom? What's the matter? She was pulled back to reality by Lily's voice. Nothing, only a bit. She made an effort to conceal her confusion. What are your food preferences for today? After putting Lily to bed that evening, Eleanor called Greg via video. In the background, a nighttime cityscape stretches out via big windows as he responded from a luxurious hotel room. How did your day go? Greg's voice was a little worn out as he inquired. Typical. However, I did receive some odd calls. Eleanor informed him about the dubious phone conversations. Maybe incorrect numbers. Greg spoke softly. In any case, I have to concentrate on tomorrow's important presentation. How is Lily doing? The nervousness in Eleanor's breast was swallowed. She's all right, but I'm missing you. The call was cut short. Greg appeared to be rushing. Eleanor hung up and sat for a time on the sofa in the living room, gazing out the window at the darkness. A strange feeling of being watched overcame her. She checked all the locks in the home and closed the drapes. As Eleanor washed her face in the bathroom the following morning, she sensed something was wrong. Her makeup was in a little different place. The distance between her placement and the perfume container was a few millimeters. She felt a chill of apprehension. She assured herself it was all in her head. Yesterday, I was rushing, but she came back to the bedroom and saw that the closet door was ajar. She opened the door nervously and looked inside. Although the clothing appears to be in its rightful places, something felt off. The way her favorite clothing was hanging was different from how it usually was. She started when she heard Mom Lily's voice. Breakfast is what I desire. Right there I'll be. Lily. Eleanor inhaled deeply in an attempt to relax. Most likely, she was simply exhausted. She may be becoming paranoid due to the stress of Greg's absence. Eleanor asked Betty Johnson, her neighbor, over for coffee in the afternoon. A former teacher, Betty had a kind disposition and excellent observational abilities. Are you thinking about something, Eleanor? Cradling her coffee cup in both hands, Betty asked. Do you think I'm going crazy, Betty? With anxiety, Eleanor inquired. I feel like someone has been in our house since yesterday. Betty gave her a worried look. Was anything taken? Not that, please. My belongings seem to have been moved a little. Clothing and cosmetics. My goodness, Betty said after giving it some thought. Maybe Greg's absence is the only reason you're tense. When my husband used to travel for work, every sound in the house makes me extremely sensitive. Eleanor gave a hard laugh. You could be correct. Maybe it's just in my head. Eleanor and Lily were playing in the garden that evening. Both of their cheeks were red from the chilly October air. Lily abruptly stopped running and gestured toward the fence. There's a woman over there, Mom? Eleanor whirled. Where? There, behind the tree. Lily's expression was solemn. The woman with the golden hair, she is observing us. Eleanor ran to the boundary. Lily, remain here. However, nobody was there when she arrived at the location. Nor was there anyone on the street. Simply walks away, dancing in the wind. Was there really someone, Lily? Lily gave a nod. Indeed. A lady with long hair. She was smiling. Eleanor grasped Lily's shoulders and asked, Seriously, have you seen this person before? Lily shook her head. No, never. That night, Eleanor couldn't sleep from anxiety. She laid in bed listening to the noises of the home. She could hear the normal creaking of an ancient house and the mild hum of the heating system. Outside, rain had started to pour again. Around 2 a.m, she eventually fell asleep from tiredness. However, just a few hours later, she was awakened by Lily's voice. Mom, that individual came back. Eleanor sat up with a start. What? Where? Standing in the garden. Lily pointed to the window, standing in the rain. Eleanor switched on the bedroom lamp with shaky hands and gingerly approached the window. She opened the drapes slightly and glanced out. Heavy rain was falling and puddles reflected from the lamps. However, the garden was devoid of any human presence. Lily, there is nobody outside. However, she was only present, Lily said with conviction in her voice. The yellow-haired woman. She had her head up. Eleanor was unable to control her shaking. You had a scary dream, she added, giving Lily a hug. Lily, however, continued to shake her head. Eleanor contacted the police after breakfast. But despite her sympathy, the female officer asked if the doors were closed in the absence of hard proof. The windows. Has there been any theft? Every inquiry had a negative response. Do you suspect someone you've had issues with, such an ex-boyfriend, of following them? No, Eleanor said. However, my daughter claims to have seen an unidentified woman. Do you have a kid? The cop's tone grew softer. Children's imaginations may be quite vivid, but if you're concerned, we'll step up patrols. Get in touch with us right away if a tangible event occurs. When Eleanor attempted to watch a movie on Greg's laptop that afternoon, she unintentionally accessed his emails. Dozens of emails from an unidentified address were found. She briefly considered opening them, but she restrained herself. She ought to be considerate of his privacy. However, a week after Greg went on his business trip, her anxiousness only increased on Friday night. Lily was allowed to sleep on Eleanor's bed. Her kid was thrilled. "I'm not afraid, Mom," Lily said. "I'll keep you safe." Eleanor caressed Lily's hair while laughing. "I'm grateful, courageous girl." After checking the house's windows and doors one more time and turning on the lights in the front porch and backyard, she lay down beside Lily. Eleanor was so tired that she instantly slept off. Little hands patted Eleanor's cheeks. She initially believed it to be a dream, but the feel of those hands was too genuine. She opened her eyes as she gradually came to. The room was completely black, with the only light coming from the moon shining through the window. "Mom?" The little voice of Lily reached her ears. The toddler had an uncanny, serene smile on her face as she leaned over her mother, but their large blue eyes were filled with apprehension. "Lily, what's the matter?" Eleanor began to sit up, trying to get rid of her sleepiness. "Don't go back to sleep, Mom. There's a visitor," at what Lily said. Though Eleanor's brain was still unable to properly process the message, her tiredness immediately disappeared. "What are you saying?" Confused, she asked. Lily murmured gently, putting her pointer finger to her lips in a hurry. There was a sense of urgency in her face that seemed to be beyond her 6 years. Eleanor heard it from the hallway at that same time. The footsteps were coming, slow and steady. She checked the clock and noticed that it was 3:15 a.m. Greg wasn't expected back until tomorrow evening. Eleanor was still as her body froze. In her youth, she could hear the sound of her heart thumping so fiercely in her chest. "Lily," she whispered in a voice that was almost audible. "Now hide behind the bed." Lily gave a head shake. "No, I'll remain with you." The sound of footsteps approached. They were confident yet cautious steps. The intruder appeared to be familiar with the house's layout. Instinctively, Eleanor grabbed her cell phone from her bedside table and attempted to call 911. At the top of the screen, she noticed the "have no service" sign. "No." She let out a gasp. It appeared like the intruder had made it to the top of the steps. After a brief pause, the footsteps gradually started to move in the direction of the bedroom where Eleanor and Lily were. Even though there were only a few footfall on the carpet, they sounded like thunder in the night stillness. Eleanor made a valiant effort to gather herself. She inhaled deeply before firmly holding Lily's hand. "Keep silent," she mouthed silently. Lily was ready to go to the closet in the corner of the room when Eleanor grabbed her up after the two tumbled off the bed. Before the bedroom door, the footsteps came to a halt. Eleanor did not speak. It was the sound of the doorknob turning slowly. It felt as though time had stopped. Eleanor's mind was racing with 1,000 ideas. Use the rear door to flee. Go out the window. Use anything to protect herself. However, Lily's safety was her top priority. The door started to open a little as soon as the doorknob finished its turn. Eleanor decided for herself. She hurriedly grabbed Lily up and made her way to a little door on the other side of the room. It was the ladder accessible entry to the attic, which is typically utilized for storage. Eleanor murmured, "Climb up," raising Lily above her head. The young girl started ascending the ladder with amazing dexterity. Eleanor turned to see the bedroom door almost about to open all the way. "Come on, Lily," she said softly. Eleanor trailed behind Lily as she climbed all the way into the attic. At that moment, the bedroom door fully opened, allowing someone to enter. After climbing the final rung, Eleanor silently shut the attic hatch. The two lay still, holding their breath in the darkness. From below, the air was stagnant and the attic was dusty. They could hear drawers being opened and stuff being flung. "That woman is where?" There was a low female voice. It was crazy and full of rage. "Come on out, Eleanor, we must speak." Eleanor wrapped her arms around Lily and covered her. Her daughter's little body was trembling, and she could feel it. Eleanor muttered, her voice barely audible, her lips coming near to Lily's ear. "It's all right. Mom is with you here. Hi there." The room appeared to be being looted by the invader. The space beneath the bed was examined when the closet door was opened. Cries of rage could be heard. "You're where? I'll track you down." Eleanor thought of one question. This woman was who? She was searching for her, but why? The voice was unfamiliar to her. It seems like the invader had discovered something. "What is this?" There was the sound of a paper flip. "Oh, a picture of your hubby, Greg. I'll have him soon." Eleanor was taken aback. Did Greg have a female partner? She gave Lily a closer hug. She buried her daughter's face in her chest. "This is a photo of your daughter I see. Adorable kid. However, my child with Greg will be much more stunning." The room rang with maniacal laughter. Anger and terror were conflicting feelings that Eleanor found difficult to control. Her first concern was Lily's safety. She searched the bedroom for a few more minutes and waited in silence. The intruder left and entered the corridor. The footsteps came from one room to another. Eleanor stood still and waited. All around the house, she could hear others searching. "You're where?" From a distance, the intruder's voice could be heard. "I'll track you down. I'll return if not today." Slowly, time went by. It seemed like they had been resting in the attic for at least an hour, even though Eleanor was unable to see the clock. Downstairs, they heard the front door open at last. The door shutting, followed by quiet. Eleanor did not, however, move at once. It may be a trap. She and Lily waited in silence for another 15 minutes or so. Lily lay on Eleanor's breast, exhausted and beginning to nod off. "Lily." Eleanor gave her daughter a gentle shake. "Hold on a minute. Mom is going to check." "No, Mother." Lily's eyes were tired as she gazed up at her mother. "I'll remain with you. It might be harmful. Waiting here will keep you safe." Lily obstinately shook her head. "I'll accompany you. I'll keep Mom safe." Eleanor gave up and let out a long sigh. "Okay, but instantly hide behind me if something goes wrong." Eleanor opened the attic hatch quietly and looked down cautiously. There was chaos in the bedroom. Every drawer on the dresser was open, and the items within were all over the floor. Clothes from the closet had been dumped on the floor, and the bed linens had been removed. Carefully descending the ladder, Eleanor assisted Lily in descending. Silently, they walked across the room and paused at the door. Eleanor paid close attention. The silence in the home was absolute. She said to Lily, "Wait here," and entered the corridor. After enough time had elapsed, the entire house was inspected. Eleanor summoned Lily. "I'll contact the cops just to be safe, even if it seems obvious." She grabbed her mobile phone. When she checked the landline, it still indicated no service. The phone line had been torn from the wall, she found out. This was intended by the invader. Eleanor's gaze was fixed on the window. A black vehicle was nowhere to be seen. She made the decision to seek assistance from a neighbor. "Don your coat, Lily," she urged. "We're heading over to Betty's place." Lily gave a quiet nod. Her azure eyes did not close. Eleanor gave her daughter a big embrace. "Lily, you showed such bravery. If you hadn't woken me up," Lily said gravely, "I was aware that someone was approaching. In my dream, I saw it." Her daughter's comments sent a shiver down Eleanor's spine. Lily had always had a keen sense of intuition, but this was more than that. But that's not the time to consider it. They had to relocate to a secure area. There was a feeling of comfort and warmth in Betty Johnson's living room. While sitting on their neighbor's couch, Eleanor and Lily responded to questioning from a police officer. Betty handed Lily, who was shivering, some hot chocolate that she had fetched from the kitchen. "Was the face of the invader visible to you?" a young male cop asked. Officer Martin was his name tag. Eleanor gave a headshake. "No, it was dark. The attic was where we were hiding." It was a female voice, though. "Right? Indeed. It was a woman with long blonde hair, I believe. She had previously been spotted in the garden by my daughter." Officer Martin gave Lily a nice grin. "Could you tell me more about this woman, Lily? How did she appear?" Lily encircled her cup with both hands and spoke slowly. Long, yellow hair. Although she was attractive, her smile was frightening. She had a photo of her father. While taking notes, the officer nodded. "You seem to recall rather well." From the entryway came another cop. She was a serious-looking woman in her 40s. Speaking to Eleanor, she stated, We've finished the investigation of the house. It appears that the burglar used some sort of gadget to unlock the rear door lock. Evidence of the usage of professional equipment was found. Eleanor's face was devoid of color, so that was prearranged? Indeed. And we discovered this. An evidence bag was presented by the female officer. A long length of golden hair was within. Security cameras also recorded it. It's a woman with long blonde hair, but the face is unclear. Who comes to mind? Officer Martin inquired. Is there anyone you know that fits this description? Eleanor gave a head shake. No, but she was beginning to question herself. Greg's name was known to the invader. She had proposed a romantic connection. Have you spoken to your spouse? Not quite yet. He's traveling for work. Get in touch with him right away. There may be risk to your family. Eleanor pulled out her cell phone and nodded. The signal at Betty's residence was operational. She pressed the number for Greg. The phone rang many times, but no one answered. It eventually ended up in voicemail. It's me, Greg. An emergency has arisen. The residence was broken into. Please give me a call back immediately, but Lily and I are safe. Her voice trembled as she said. Betty volunteered to let Eleanor and Lily remain at her house instead of sending them to a hotel like the police proposed. My home is secure. My spouse also owns a shotgun. Holding Eleanor's hand, Betty spoke. In order to obtain the required clothing and paperwork, Eleanor went back to her house that afternoon with the police. They had ransacked the whole home. On the table in the living room, her wedding photo with Greg had been destroyed, and there were broken picture frames all over the place. Eleanor stood in disbelief. Has there been any theft? The policeman inquired. Eleanor surveyed the home. Nothing really valuable. She opened her mouth to speak, but paused. Someone had broken into Greg's study. Despite being on the floor, his laptop appeared to be undamaged. I'll accept this. She gestured at the laptop. It contains my husband's vital job information. Lily was tired and napping in the afternoon when they got back to Betty's place. In the living room, Eleanor opened Greg's laptop. She was aware of the password. Throughout their 10 years of marriage, they had exchanged passwords. A number of email alerts showed up on the screen as soon as the laptop turned on. Eleanor's world came apart when she carelessly clicked on them. A slew of communications featuring a woman called Carol appeared on the screen. Love-filled words. Confidential gatherings. Future plans. This woman seems to have been Greg's lover for at least half a year. Eleanor's hands were shaking as she scrolled through the messages, and she gasped when she saw the most recent one. We can be together when your wife leaves. I'm eager. Next week, let's get together at the hotel. As usual, 2 days prior to Greg's departure on his business trip, the message was sent. Eleanor put both hands over her face and closed the screen. Everything was interconnected. Greg's lack of interest, the covert phone conversations, and his recent avoidance of her. And maybe Mom was the invader last night. Someone might hear Lily's voice. Her eyelids were drowsy as she stood in the living room. Lily, oh. Despite Eleanor's best efforts, the tears continued to fall. Lily went up to her mother in silence and gave her a small arm embrace. Did Dad do something wrong? Once more, Eleanor marveled at the child's extraordinary perception. Dad was wrong. But now is the time to consider our options. Greg eventually phoned that night. He promised to go home right away. Eleanor carefully described the circumstances, without any reference to Carol. Greg remarked, I'll be on the first flight tonight. You two being safe makes me very happy. There was real concern in his voice. Eleanor was perplexed. Did he truly care for them, or was he only frightened that the secret might be revealed? Eleanor pulled out an ancient revolver she had acquired from her father before she presented fresh evidence to the police. Although she hadn't used it in almost a decade, she could recall the fundamentals of shooting when she was younger. Her father had taken her to a shooting range to practice. She made sure the safety was on and examined the rounds. Self-defense was the reason behind this. Carol may return. The following morning, Greg showed up looking worn out. He gave Lily and Eleanor firm embraces. What took place? Eleanor remarked quietly. The cops, sit down. We must speak. She opened the laptop and showed Carol the emails. Greg's face lost their color. Eleanor responded there was no need to explain. I believe I ought to show the cops this. Last night, Carol may have been the intruder. Do you not believe she was aware of you? Concerning our home? Greg's hands gripped his head. That isn't feasible. She was, indeed. Although it wasn't like we did have a relationship. Is her hair blonde and long? The answer was silence, Greg. The cops were able to determine Carol's complete name and address 2 hours later. It was found that Carol Daniels, 34, who worked for a firm connected to Greg's, had a history of arrests for stalking. Martin promised, "Officer, we'll find her. Officers will be on duty till then." Greg had to come clean. 6 months ago, the affair started. He still insisted, nevertheless, that he was unaware of Carol's intrusive strategy. Although she had some compulsive tendencies, I never imagined her doing this. Eleanor gazed intently at him. She used to adore this man. Lily's father, her life companion. He appeared to be a stranger now. "Greg, I'm returning to Betty's house with Lily. From now on, we will communicate through attorneys." After a terrifying night, her voice remained unflinching. Eleanor had found her inner power. Taking Lily's hand, she made her way to the door. "The bus is on its way, Lily." The kitchen was where Eleanor Harris called. After the divorce, she remarried but went back to using her maiden name. From the living room came faint footsteps. Lily was taller now, and her face was more certain. "Can I visit Sarah's place today after school, Mom?" As Lily got her lunchbox, she inquired. "Naturally. I'll come get you at 5 o'clock." Eleanor gave her daughter a quick kiss on the forehead. It had been a year since that awful night. Lily and Eleanor had relocated to a little New Hampshire hamlet from Pennsylvania. Eleanor had landed a new job at a nearby hospital as head of pharmacy. The work environment was fantastic, and the pay was higher than it had been previously. Most importantly, it was a fresh start for both her and her kid. The new home's living room was warmly lit by the morning light that came in through the window. The little dwelling was ideal for them. Lily and their recently adopted dog, Max, could play in the large backyard. They had begun to maintain a huge dog on the recommendation of the police. As Lily ran toward the school bus, Eleanor watched from the window. The beautiful smile on her daughter's face warmed her heart. She had feared that Lily would be traumatized by the harrowing night, but a child's fortitude was amazing. Counseling on a regular basis has also been beneficial. 2 days after the break-in, Carol Daniels was taken into custody. Photos of Eleanor, duplicate home keys, and, horrifyingly, notes of a murder plot were found in her car in a nearby town. She acknowledged, under police questioning, that she had attempted to kill Eleanor so she could wed Greg. Carol received a borderline personality disorder diagnosis after undergoing a psychiatric assessment at the trial. She received a 10-year jail term. Greg was not charged because there was not enough proof of a conspiracy. However, he lost both his employment and his social respect. Eleanor made the divorce process go more quickly. Child support, great money, and the opportunity to see Lily once a month, but he had relocated to the West Coast, out of state. Lily talked to her father on the phone from time to time, but he had become aloof from her life. She was getting ready to go back to work. Eleanor thought about her life once again. She was stronger than she had been. She had cleared the way and conquered her fear. She was most proud of having given Lily a loving and secure atmosphere. After putting Lily to bed that evening, Eleanor sat by her bedroom window and gazed up at the starry sky. When her cell phone called, an unfamiliar number appeared on the screen. She said, "Hello? This is Eleanor Harris," after a tense minute. "Officer Johnson from the Massachusetts Women's Correctional Facility here, Miss Harris." There was a masculine voice. "Something you ought to be aware of. We found Carol Daniels trying to write you a letter. Naturally, we took it away, but she still appears to be obsessed with you." Eleanor inhaled deeply. "Is my new address known to her?" "No, not at all. But I felt you should be on your guard. Thank you." Eleanor ended the call. Peeping inside Lily's chamber, she crossed the bedroom. Her daughter had a calm look as she slept. Max was lying on the floor, sound sleeping. Eleanor caressed Lily's hair, a devoted guardian. "It's all right now," she muttered. Eleanor went back to her bed and opened the drawer beside her. There was still her father's gun. She lied down on the bed after closing the drawer. She would not allow fear to control her, but she would also never let her guard down. She was still filled with the bravery she had displayed that night to keep her kids safe. Lily's grin when she would pick her up tomorrow was her final thought. A full moon was shining brilliantly outside the window, signifying a fresh start.